Well, hi there, everybody. It's Mr. V. Just some words of wisdom for you guys today. Always spade or neuter your pets. Trust me, it comes in very handy if your pets are...
Cuddles, stop it! Okay, so we got a little bit of a problem here. That's okay. That's okay. I know, yeah, I know. You're a good boy. You're a good boy. But Daddy's trying to work. Come on, little guy. Get up, get off, get off. Come on. Tickle, 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 kitchy, 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 kitchy.
Okay, there we go. Anyway, always spay or neuter your pets. It comes in very handy, especially if you end up with little baby versions around that you can't feed or happen to be a parasitic nuisance. Cuddles? Where'd you go? Cuddles? Oh shoot, I hate it when he does this. Seriously, it's like a hide-and-seek game for the guy. And every time, he just likes to get the drop on me from someplace else. Come on, where'd you go, little guy? Alright, everybody, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a portrait up from my head. If you know the basic pieces of the face, and not only that, but basic pieces of anatomy in general, you can create almost any unique facial structure. Any. And you don't even have to use reference. Now that takes practice, but you just do that by manipulating the individual parts of a form. And what I'm going to do in this demo, I'm just going to make my pre-drawing in blue, and I'm going to do a contour line over the top of that, and I'm just going to shade into it, and eventually just turn the pre-drawing lines off. Once again, you guys will be pre-drawing very lightly on your piece. That's okay. Looks kind of scribbly, but that's alright. That's just beginning work to plot the foundations. And so right now, I've got the skull and the face shape, basically. Now I've got to find out where the eyes are. So I go from the head to the chin, and I find the middle point, and that is right about there. Ta-da! Alright. Okay, so now I need to find the nose, and that would be between this line and the chin. And that would be right about there. And then next, the mouth, between the nose and the chin, and that would be right about there. That could be the mouth line, lips, whatever. And there's some variation there. Your face might be a little bit different, but all in all, just go ahead and conform to that. So now I'm going to draw the ears, and once again, the ears are between the eye line and the nose, so I know they're going to be right about here. And you can totally have those guidelines as you work. And so the next part is to round out.
Cuddles! Cuddles, dang it! Okay. Yes, I get it. Here, Cuddles, here. Soda! You want some Sprite? It's soda.
Jeez, gosh dang it. Sorry about that. Sorry. My apologies. Really, that was irresponsible of me. You guys are here trying to learn, you know, so let's get serious and get right at it. School is not supposed to be only about fun. It's supposed to be about hard work. Fun just gets...
Come on!
Okay, that was interesting. So, here is our pre-drawing, and what I'm doing right now is I'm plotting in the eyes and the nose and the mouth and so on. Here are the ears, and skipping right ahead, pre-drawing the nose. And this demo is primarily going to be an example of mainly the light source, where light falls on your face. And then in a separate demo later in the future, what we're going to do is just explore you know, how to finish that drawing from there. And right now what I'm doing is I'm just plotting out the basic general shapes of things. For the eyes up there, you can kind of see the sockets plotted in, the brow line and so forth. I kind of wanted to do a smiling face just because it contorts and changes the shape of the surface of your face. It's a great way to show off how you can get all sorts of different shadows and little valleys and such in there. And, you know, again, this is a dark pre-drawing just so you guys can see it. You guys will be doing this very lightly on your piece. Going in, I'm just kind of roughing in where the eyes are at just for fun. You can see that I'm starting with the top lid, just like we discussed in the eye demonstration. Going down, kind of rounding out the nose, getting that underpart. That underpart of the nose is very important. The mouth. We haven't gone over an open mouth yet. Typically, it's kind of triangular in shape and kind of rectangular at the exact same time. Really just depends on your own features. You know, make a face in a mirror to see how your mouth reacts to it. A lot of animators and portrait artists study portraits by looking in a mirror and making faces. It's one of the best ways to learn. So now I'm just rounding out the head. I'm conforming the egg shape to a unique facial structure that I was going to use. As always, just use that template as a building block to build on from there. Fast forwarding a little bit, what I did is I'm just throwing in the shadows, and then we're going to talk about them coming up here in a second. How do you learn how to do this? Well, just look in the mirror. Put a lamp next to you and look at all the different shadows, where they fall on your face. And depending on your facial structure, depending on your expression and so on, that might look different. I'll give you a hint. It has a lot to do with how you shade a sphere, because the face is made up of a lot of rounded forms, and a sphere is the first step towards knowing how to shade organic and rounded features. So if you know how to shade a sphere really well, you'll be able to shade your nose, you'll be able to shade your cheeks and your chin and your cheek bones and so on, and even your lips. So just being mindful of your light source, and I'll give you some examples here coming up. Okay, so we've finished the speed demo here, so let's kind of break it down into pieces and see how we got to it. This is the finished product, and I know you're looking at this going, whoa, that looks complicated, how do we do it? Well, yes, it is complicated, but there are a set number of shadows here, which means it's learnable. And also, you would adapt this to fit your own unique facial features. So let's take it apart. Once again, we started with our pre-drawing here. How you do this just depends on how well you studied the screencasts on proportion, anatomy, where things go, and it's rough and it's loose. It's just capturing the general shapes. Knowing all this material, you'd look at your reflection in the mirror and also where that light is coming from, and you would block in your values. I like to start with my darkest values to block them in. And here's an example. Green would represent shadow. Red would represent highlight. And personally, if I block in my shadows, that gives me less to think about. You can worry about your highlights simply by not shading there as you shade your face, after you draw your face and such. So then all you've got to worry about are the darkest shadows on where those are. So let's take a look at those shadows, and let's focus only on the darkest parts of this drawing. What are those areas? Let's, instead of addressing the entire face, let's break it down into pieces. Let's look at the eyes. And this represents the eye socket. And so let's look at the right side over here. Assuming the light is coming from the upper right, you would have shadow in this area because your eye sits in a sunken socket, and it would slightly carry down a little bit onto the side of the nose, but then it would suddenly stop. That's because your face becomes slightly flatter over here. Now let's look at its twin brother over here. We've got the eye socket, and it goes a little further out on this side of the nose. Now going back to your knowledge of light source and perspective, if your light is coming from here and hitting your nose, a raised up form, it's going to cast a shadow across this surface because your nose sticks out of your face. So that's why you're going to have a shadow that wraps around your cheekbone right over here and goes on the outside of where your nose is. Now when you smile, like in this piece, typically you cast little lines on the sides of your cheeks that connect to your mouth. That's what those lines would be. And you see they're not simple lines, they're actually masses of value. So, by treating your values as shapes, it makes drawing a value drawing more manageable. Now those values come up and they tuck underneath the nose and go into that cleft on top of the mouth. Depending on the shape of your mouth, it might continue, make a whole mass on the shape of where your mouth is smiling at. And it has a twin brother over here that connects as well. Now you do know that between the chin and the lip there's a little valley here. And so that would also be a form that would be a shadow, because light wouldn't be hitting there directly. That shadow would wrap around the chin because the chin would protrude outward from the face. And going back to your knowledge of shading a sphere, that makes the chin one of the easiest parts to shade. And finally, that shadow would wrap around the bottom of the chin. Now here's the area where if you're a male with defined features, you would see this. Your cheekbones would have a shadow that wraps around it on this side and conforms to the shape of your jaw and your cheek. Your ears would be shaded, as would be your temple. And I didn't finish the top because that's where your hair would be at. So you conform this to your basic shape of what you're seeing in your picture. You might not have this many shadows in your piece. Younger people don't have as much facial definition as people who are older. This would be a face of a person probably in their 30s. Highlight. There's a lot less highlight than there is midtone and shadow in this, but if you've got a light source coming, naturally it's going to hit this side, and you'll see a little indent over here where your brow line is at. And it wraps around your socket and comes just under the bottom of the line and then bottom of your eye. and then conforms to the shape of your cheekbones. You'd have some highlight on the tip of the nose, the outside of the nostril, the outside of the bridge, the outside of the brow line where it connects, where your nasal bone's at, on the bottom lip, also the outside of the chin and the outside of the jaw. Now, I'm not really going to address mid-tone. That takes care of itself. Highlight would just be areas that you don't touch. Shades would be areas that you layer into. Now let's look at the values. Your finished drawing wouldn't have these hard edges like there are here. You'll have some hard edges, but areas like this right over here where the shadow fades into a gray, you would blend those together, meaning whatever pressure on your pencil you use to create this value, you would gradually reduce it until it reached this basic gray right here. So know where your hard edges are and know where your soft edges are. How do you know? Typically we'd have a hard edge between this highlight and the socket. Anywhere you've got a highlight that goes immediately to a shade, that would be a hard edge. Also the top of the eye socket, it abruptly goes into the face, so you would probably have a hard edge there as well. It really depends on you guys. We're going to finish up the portrait on another screencast, and I look forward to seeing you guys. All right, take care.